fabulous Leo Curse and Steve N. Allen. Now, chaps, you're obviously partly here to help us look at the big stories from tomorrow's papers.
Yeah, that's our job.
Yeah, it's your job, really. You're employed to do that, which is hilarious in itself. But there's another reason you're here, which is that you've both quite recently had babies and are happy to be out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In it.
Really good.
I mean, this is, look at you, the look of relief in your face, Leo Curse.
Yeah.
Not changing a nappy or feeding a small creature milk.
Yeah, and also when you change the nappy, they seem to go through another bowel movement or urination midway through changing the nappy, so then you get it all over yourself.
But then you've got a daughter, I've got a son, and that's like being in the Matrix, having to dodge the little squirts coming at you. Whoa, my reflexes are sharp now.
Too right. And I'm pleased to say that lovely Leo is nurturing the inner toddler because this is his rider for the show tonight.
Yeah.
A pint of semi-skim.
Came out of a cow's boob, though.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to say, is your missus
Absolute
expressing?
disgrace.
Is it?
thought it was vegan. You've let me down. Let's now take a look at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Sunday Telegraph. And they lead with Sunak to stamp out woke policing. Prime Minister wants officers back on the front line, focusing on offences that the public actually care about. Food prices to surge after Putin chokes grain supply is another story in the Sunday Telegraph. And Rees-Mogg in migrant warning. Jacob Rees-Mogg has warned that Rishi Sunak cannot ease up on legal migration until the arrival of migrants via illegal routes is under control. The Observer next, number 10 alarm at Boris Johnson's plan to attend the COP27 climate summit. Surely not to upstage Rishi Sunak, who won't be in attendance. The Sunday Mirror now. Fossil fuels and the rise of Rishi. Donors with fossil fuel links helped fund Rishi Sunak's race for number 10. The Sunday Times. Tory Green Czar attacks Sunak for COP27 snub. Of course, Sunak, as I've mentioned, won't be attending. Also, a truly horrific story from South Korea. At least 146 die in Seoul Halloween stampede, an unparalleled tragedy. Also, Braverman, the Home Secretary, ignored advice over illegally detained asylum seekers, say the Sunday Times. The Sunday Express now. Rishi sinks Boris yacht. The £250 million flagship yacht that Boris Johnson hoped would become an emblem of Britain's global power has been axed by the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. The Sun on Sunday. My son saved my life. Telly guru Simon Cowell has revealed how becoming a father saved him from a dark obsession with work. Also, Liz's phone is hacked by Putin, says the Sun on Sunday. Well, we've got more on that from the Daily Star Sunday. World is on veg. Letters Liz hacked by Mad Vlad. Trust us. It's beyond belief. That's right, a pun-laden summing up of quite a serious story in which it appears Liz Truss's mobile phone may have been hacked by Moscow. So we'll come to that story very shortly. Those are your front pages. And we kick off with the front page of the Sunday Times and Rishi Sunak's decision to skip COP27. Well, Steve, you might be regretting his decision now.
Certainly, Alok Sharma doesn't like it, and he, of COP26 fame, did a little bit of crying. That's how much he was trying to sort out sea levels. I'm not sure if that would have helped.
He actually cried.
Well, it says, I just Googled it to try and see the video again. It said held back tears, which I know is not technically crying, but it ruined the joke about crying, so I put it in anyway. But, you know, he welled up, which is enough, isn't it? But he's upset that Rishi's not going, making the argument that other countries have Conservative parties that have lost some ground because, look, it starts to look like they don't care about the environment. I'm not sure we have that particular situation, that playing field here. Also, if he wants to try and earn that ground back, the bringing back in the moratorium on fracking kind of covers that. Rishi's saying he's busy sorting out some stuff. I really don't know whether this makes a difference, Rishi going or not to COP27. I mean, it's going to go ahead. The talking points will still be in the newspapers. People will still be making the same point. Oh, you're flying to talk about climate. And we all pretend that we don't know the maths. Like, oh, if you take a flight and you talk two people out of getting a flight, you've covered it. But let's pretend we don't know that because I guarantee you when it's on, you'll be doing it.
Yeah, we get caught up in the trivial aspect of these stories, don't we? And we're not looking at the bigger picture.
The flights that those people would have been taking would have been useful flights, productive flights. Perhaps going to a business meeting, generating something for the economy. Whereas going to a climate change conference to convince people not to take flights, that's an inherently unproductive. You're just sucking value out of the economy.
If Leonardo DiCaprio talks at least, what's the name of it as the Nespresso one? George Clooney. And one other celeb out of flying. Look at that. Bosh. Already you've made profit.
Yeah, but none of them.
Emma Thompson, George Clooney staying at home.
None of them are going to move into a bed sit and travel by bicycle everywhere. These elites, it's always for the little guy, or me.
But yeah, the idea of, we're doing it now, the argument about flying to a place to talk about climate, if there's no other way of getting there...
Zoom! There's Zoom calls. We just had 2 years of Zoom calls. We can't do them now for climate change conferences.
I thought Jacob Rees-Mogg said it was a terrible way of working. We might need to pick a side of the fence on that issue all of a sudden. But back to this one. Boris is going, Rishi's not going. I don't know if this is actually going to make a blind bit of difference, to be fair.
Could this be an own goal by Rishi Sunak if he's upstaged by the former Prime Minister? Because Boris is going to go there and he's going to look prime ministerial, isn't he?
Well, is he? I mean, he didn't look prime ministerial when he was Prime Minister. So, yeah, we'll see about that. But, yeah, I don't think this is going to be big potatoes for Rishi Sunak. I think, the people who care about this kind of thing probably weren't going to vote Conservative in the first place. Yeah. And also we're seeing some of the benefits of global warming, climate change coming through now. We're having an incredibly nice October, and as well as, being out in a T-shirt today, I've also noticed that we're using less fossil fuels. We're using less oil and gas. So that's helping us with the energy crisis, and it's also helping us defeat Russia.
Is this decision to cop out of COP27 by Rishi Sunak, is this him saying bollocks to the green agenda?
I hope so. And I wish he'd undo his ban on fracking. So he's reintroduced the ban on fracking, and it just doesn't make any sense. We've got gas under our ground, and we can get it out safely and reasonably easily, and become more energy independent. I know it's sold on a market, but when push comes to shove, if we really come to crunch times, the market will disappear. So we'll have energy security, and also it'll generate revenue for the UK just when we need it.
Yes, indeed. The highlight of that conversation was quite an insight into George Clooney's career. Forget about his performances in Three Kings, Gravity or Up in the Air. According to Steve N. Allen, he's the Nespresso one.
That Up in the Air thing, he was on too many planes. That's exactly the point. You get him to land...
And it was very, very triggering for Steve N. Allen. My apologies to George Clooney, who I happen to know watches the show. On to the Mail on Sunday, and Mr. Putin's been snooping from Liz Truss's phone. Leo.
Yeah, so Liz Truss's personal phone was hacked by Putin's spies for top-secret details of negotiations with allies, including Ukraine, and private messages she exchanged with Kwasi Kwarteng, discussing government business and discussing Boris. So this is a pretty substantial leak. I know, politicians are repeatedly found to have used personal communication devices for government business. We saw it with Hillary Clinton, of course, who then destroyed phones and servers with a hammer, as if she was Colleen Rooney, or no, Rebecca Vardy. She couldn't chuck it in the North Sea because she was inland at the time. Yeah. But and Suella Braverman just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago had resigned because she said she'd breached some sort of security detail. But yeah, this is a serious one. So it was discovered during the summer Tory leadership campaign when Miss Truss was Foreign Secretary, and the details were suppressed at the time. But the phone was so heavily compromised that it has now been placed in a locked safe inside a secure government location. I love that. They're just like, chuck a bucket over it. You know what I mean? Fill it with water. It's just doing whatever they can to stop Russia's, prying rays getting into it.
In case it's a transformer. I imagine that it might and then take over.
Do you think maybe the Prime Minister should be issued with an early iPhone iPhone. Like an iPhone 4.
Yeah.
You know.
A Nokia.
That's it.
Because then also we won't need to worry about it running out of power. If there's, if the energy crisis continues, there's rolling blackouts, one of those Nokia. In fact, I might power my house with one of those.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Steve, this has chilling undertones, this story, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, you have to feel sorry for whichever spy had the job of reading all of this stuff. It must have been the dullest thing. Because she's got the energy of someone who spends a lot of time in group WhatsApp sending messages like, it's 1 o'clock. So that was a lot of reading through. We don't technically know how this malware got on the phone, but at the same time, we know she was clicking on a voucher for Monsoon or something.
Yeah, too right, exactly. They're just they're looking at a Samsung and they're like, right, what is Russian for U-turn? Now, let's move on to the Sunday Telegraph. And Sunak is to take action on woke policing. Steve, more strong messaging from our new Prime Minister.
Yeah, although it does seem that it's the newspapers adding in the word woke to this. Because it's a trigger word, isn't it? Some people hear it and go, oh, whatever you're talking about, I definitely hate it then because I know I hate woke. And that's the maths done in my head.
Luckily, it's not a word upon which we rely here at GB News.
No, I'm glad. However...
I actually had to ask Andrew Doyle earlier today what it meant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what did he say?
He said, beats me.
However, could you use it in a sentence? Yeah, but I don't know what it means. Yeah. So he's decided he's backing, because of the results of the person who was in charge of Greater Manchester Police, who's turned it around. Now, the newspaper describes this person as anti-woke. And here's where it gets slightly, the water is muddied somewhat. The person is anti-woke. Famously made quotes saying things like, the only people I take the knee for is the Queen, God and his wife. I hope, is he in a controlling relationship? You're meant to have to do that.
What's he doing down there? Kneeling in front of his wife.
Oh, for the wife. I wondered which one you were. I don't know. I hope his kids never need a shoe tying, otherwise they can jog on, can't they? But he actually has...
Well, they can't. They don't have shoes on.
No, they'd fall over. It's a health and safety nightmare. It's a back-to-basics thing. So if you look at the policies he brought in, investigating every crime and putting bobbies on the beat, these are things that people have wanted. You don't even need to drop the word woke in there, but the newspapers enjoy it. But this makes sense. This is in part actually doing better policing and in part being seen to be doing better policing. And I know that could just be seen as like PR, but it's not, because the impression of how well policed we are will impact crime and perceptions.
But is the sort of woke element that the police are less focused on going to people's houses for something they wrote on Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, but you can argue the funding that I don't think they should be wasting their time doing that. But you know what? If you've managed to do all the crimes, check Facebook for all I care, but get your priorities.
But we know for a fact that they haven't done all the crimes. And in fact, Greater Manchester Police, oversaw disgusting crimes around grooming gangs and also, traditional sort of volume crimes around theft and things like that. And I know the police have sort of deprioritised a lot of, acquisitive crime, car crime, burglaries and things like that. And then they're putting all the money and resources into wearing rainbow outfits and, taking the knee at BLM parades. And, we don't need that stuff. Nobody's voting for that stuff. And also the police always seem confused when they turn up to arrest somebody for tweets. They always seem confused about the law, and it's because it doesn't make any sense. If you're the law should make sense, and it should be easy and intuitive to avoid breaking the law. If you're getting arrested for retweeting a limerick, that doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Amen to that. The Observer now, and away from British politics, some stern words on the ongoing protests in Iran. Leo, tell me more.
Yeah, so the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards has told protesters that Saturday will be their last day of taking to the streets. So it's a sign that the security forces will intensify their crackdown on unrest that's sweeping the country. So, since the 16th of September, there have been protests that haven't abated. I mean, usually in Iran, there's protests every once in a while, but they've been increasing in frequency. And a couple of months ago, there's Mahsa Amini, this young Iranian woman, was because her headscarf was allegedly not correct. She hadn't pinned it properly or whatever. She was dragged from the streets by the morality police in Iran and beaten to death, possibly tortured and raped as well. And it led to these, wide-scale uprisings, and men have joined in, and the upper echelons of Iranian society have joined in. But now the sort of more hardline members who've sort of taken over a lot of the apparatus are going to quell it. So Hossein Salami, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, that's actually Iranian for silly sausage. He says, don't come to the streets. Today is the last day of riots. And he also blamed the White House and Israel. He said it's a sinister plan hatched in the White House and the Zionist regime. So he's trying to blame the riots on outside forces. But in reality, everybody in Iran, after 40 years of the Islamic Revolution, has had dealings with the morality police, has had dealings with the horrible, barbarous theocracy that governs them. So everybody, just through word of mouth and through personal experience, has come to absolutely loathe and detest and want a regime change. And I think, this is going to be a real crux point for Iran, where it could tip, whether the protests will tip and actually overthrow the regime, or they could, brutally repress them. And they're doing deals with Russia now, so I think Russia, in exchange for Iranian drones, is going to be sending, a lot of truncheons and things like that.
A few bits and bobs, and we must remind ourselves that Iran is a nuclear power, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, are you implying they might try and quell the riot with nuclear weapons? I
hope not.
That
but it's a very dangerous regime with access to these lethal weapons, and you have to hope that this awful regime is crumbling, as Leo said.
Well, they don't have a nuclear bomb. They've got like a factory that keeps getting blown up by Mossad that's trying to make a nuclear bomb. But I think they're
enriching uranium.
Yeah.
But I hope there are more steps than just that. But I mean, look, the idea of just saying, "Oh, today's your last day of doing it," making a riot seem like a DFS sale, it's not going to happen. Surely they won't successfully quell these. It's also not the first time they've had that message of now stop this, and they haven't stopped. So let's hope they carry on.
Yeah, too right. Shall we now finish on this for part one? Sunday's Telegraph and Joe Biden's take on the attack on Paul Pelosi. Steve, tell us who Paul Pelosi is and what happened.
Yeah, let's get the ducks in a row. So this is about Nancy Pelosi's other half, 82-year-old, I think that's important, has had surgery to treat a fractured skull after he was attacked. This David DePape, 42, allegedly broke into their home wearing his underpants. So at least he'd remembered those. Before beating Paul with a hammer, where was he keeping the hammer? According to reports, the attacker was a former nudist who previously posted COVID conspiracy theories, anti-Semitic blog posts and racist rants online. So it's kind of like a cross between, if you get Kanye with Orlando Bloom and some more, because it's not all covered by that, but you get the idea of it. He was allegedly carrying a manifesto, again, with anti-COVID beliefs and a list of other politicians he intended to target. Why would you need a list? Was he worried that he'd forget like he does with his trousers?
Well, this story does raise some questions. Like, why was he in his underwear? Why was there no sign of forced entry to the house? I'm not talking about anything else that might have been entered. Why he lived in a hippie commune. The media are trying to paint him as some sort of MAGA patriot Trump supporter. He lived in a hippie commune with a Black Lives Matter sign in the window. He made hemp jewellery. He was a nudist and a Green Party member. He doesn't sound like the most Trumpian Trump. I've never seen it. Even when they stormed the White House, there was a guy with his shirt off. He had his trousers on. So he doesn't sound like a Trump supporter to me.
No, do you think that this attack, which of course is reprehensible, could it be leveraged for political gain, do you think?
That is exactly what the media are doing and what the Pelosi's are doing. And it's come at an opportune time for the Democrat Party with the midterms coming up.
Yes, indeed. I've done a little bit more work on George Clooney's career. So, Syriana, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Ocean's 11. But according to Steve N. Allen, he's the Nespresso one.
Yeah, Nespresso guy, yeah.
Okay.
That's why he's still up watching headliners.
Yeah, too right, exactly. You can't get to sleep. You've got the shakes from a flat white. There you go. The Oscar. It means nothing now, as far as Steve's concerned. He's a coffee salesman. That's it.
Did he get an Oscar for those adverts?
Oh, most certainly, and rightly so, let me tell you. We've got lots more in part two, including the rest of George Clooney's career, as well as free speech training, the UK's first all-black university, and uniform restrictions being extended to the King's Guard. See you shortly.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan Tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Burn After Reading, The Men Who Ate Goats. Far from it, it's just the coffee one. Crushed, just like those espresso beans. Welcome back to Headliners with me, Mark Dolan. Your first look at tomorrow's papers tonight in the company of the wonderful comedian Leo Kearse and the George Clooney-hating Steve N. Allen. Let's get back to some more big stories of the day. The Mail on Sunday, and it seems the Ministry of Defence have found themselves in a hairy situation, Leo.
Yeah, you could, if you can bear that pun. Basically, animal rights activists PETA say they will sue the Ministry of Defence for refusing to replace the King's Guard's bearskin caps with fake fur. So they're still made out of bearskin. That's what they're called. And it's because they're made out of bearskin. So the PETA have campaigned for the cap's fur to be replaced with a synthetic substitute for 20 years now. And they've condemned the MOD's alleged support for the slaughter of Canadian black bears. The MOD, however, says that the furs are not hunted for order and come from legal licensed hunts. Because, to be honest, black bears in Canada have to be culled, like a lot of animals, like deer in this country. You have to cull them. You have to maintain the population.
Wolves have to be culled.
Wolves have to be culled. Stuff that doesn't have an apex predator killing it, which, bears don't. Well, I guess we are the apex predator over bears. And also they get eaten.
Speak for yourself.
I've eaten bear sausage, grizzly bear sausage.
That's what they told you what it was.
They're bound to make it out of...
You didn't buy that story, did you? Don't worry, this is the bear sausage, you'll be fine. Just relax.
It tasted delicious. It was very gamey. But also the synthetic stuff is not even... also it's more ethical to eat bears because they're big. So if you eat a chicken, you've got to kill like 10 chickens to get a certain amount of food. if you kill a bear, you've got enough for loads and loads of lunch.
So when was the last time you had a bear sausage in you?
It was... I'm not Paul Pelosi. I used to live in Canada. I ate sausage then. But
Actually, you can stop talking. I think we've been taken off it now.
But also, these caps, these synthetic fur caps, they don't meet... they meet only one of the 5 criteria for these hats that relate to water absorption, penetration, get that with a bear sausage, appearance, drying rate, also get that with a bear sausage, and compression, which you also get with a bear sausage.
Steve Van Allen, do you want my fake fur hot take?
Yes,
Do you want
please.
my contrarian, finger-wagging take on the whole thing?
Should we get in a bearskin for you to cut up?
Well, that wouldn't be bad. How about this as a thought? Which is, I mean, I abhor cruelty to animals, but...
What about Hitler's dog?
Well, I think
could go back in
even the
time.
dog, I'll probably let the dog off, I'll be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. But surely natural fur is more environmentally friendly, because with fake fur, that's basically polyester, isn't it, which is plastic.
Microplastics.
Yeah, well, I don't care either way.
Like vegan leather, they call it vegan leather. There's no such thing as vegan leather, it's vinyl. Again, it's plastic.
Vegan cheese, I think, would be a better substance to make a sofa out of, actually. Weird.
Probably would.
No, on this story, I don't care either way, because I wear a different hat.
Oh, you hate animals?
No, because the animals aren't being killed for it. So, yeah, use their fur if you want, but also if you want to try and change it, I wouldn't then, leave the UK because they're making the hats out of something else. This is exactly the category of story that gets people angrier than the actual substance of the story. They could have swapped these hats, and I never would have known. That's how much I care about whether it's real or eco-fur.
Yeah. Also, they can't wear them in battle, can they? I mean, you're trying to hide in a trench with this big bear hat coming out of your head?
There are 15 bears coming towards us, sir. What should we do? It's camouflage, isn't it? Pretending you're bears.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. It's certainly, I think, a military own goal at, in the best of times. Let's now have a look at the Mail on Sunday. And it seems the Ministry of Defence have obviously covered that story in depth. But let's have a look at the Telegraph now. And a university that's not actually a university. Leo, what's going on?
Oh, so this is Britain's first black university, but it doesn't actually have permission to use the official title university. And there's a reason for this. It's not racism. Basically, this thing, the Free Black University, was created by Mel Owusu, and he said it's needed because British universities are built on colonisation, blah, 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 all the bad things. And so he crowdfunded 150 grand, and he didn't just spend it. He set up this university, and it only accepts applications from people racialised as black or mixed black, because, of course, the best way to fight perceived racism is actual racism. But yeah, this course, it sounds like nonsense. I'm not surprised he's not allowed to call it a university. It's a 10-week course. This is the only course that's running at the moment. Week 2 is titled Burn, then a word that means poo down. It focuses on building abolitionist futures. It talks about the Eurocentric masculinist knowledge validation process. I assume it's taught by Russell Brand. Week 3 explores how colonialism produced the concept of time itself. That sounds kind of racist in itself. It's kind of like saying, this is why I was late. You know, that is a racist course. They also say at the end of the course, at the end of the 10-week course, there's no assessment because we do not believe the process of external validation is supportive for the process of exploration we'll be setting upon. So it's not even marked at the end, so everybody gets a gold star. It's not even a kindergarten, never mind a university.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Well, the mind boggles, doesn't it? Would you attend such a university, Steve?
Well, I mean, what's their maths course like? Because that's my kind of subject. Any chance of doing that, or is it all humanities stuff?
That sounds colonialist.
Maths, because of time and stuff. It's not... The word university is apparently a protected word, so you can't just be using it in your brand name. Otherwise, you can't just put TM at the end of it, like you could with the word beef. So they're not a university. I mean, maybe more should be done about making sure that we don't have fake universities. You know, and then insert joke about going to Kiel, you know.
Well, no, they are very strict about that word university. It can only be called a university if it's a complete waste of your time and money.
What did you get? What did you get?
Well, can I tell you that I got a 2-2 because I'm a legend.
Because you got great legs.
Yeah, because I wasn't clever clogs, you know. I wanted to, you know what I mean? I'm keeping it real, basically.
Yeah. What did you get a 2-2 in?
Politics, which was obviously a waste of taxpayers' money, for which I'd like to apologise right now. Politics degree at Edinburgh University, had a brilliant time, but yes, I'll refund the money at some point. This next story on teaching students to be more tolerant is quite an interesting one, Steve.
This headline: Cambridge University students set to receive free speech training, but with no hyphens or anything in there. It depends which word you hit, because it'd be like, what, this speech training's free. Excellent. Put me down on that. I could do with some of that action. I'm a bit skinned to the mo. But this is a new project led by Professor Arif Ahmed that's trying to counter what is perceived to be cancel culture on campus. This will be the litmus test. Because if this person's got a job a week from now, surely we've found out either way. But the sessions are aimed at educating undergraduates, I love this sentence, the importance of tolerating views that they disagree with. Oh, I mean, life's hard, isn't it? Imagine having to tolerate a view. I do think this ends up creating snowflakery present on both sides of every debate, because for some reason we're just intolerant of the idea of, what, someone said a thing I disagree with, they should never work again, they should be shut down.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, you see? I don't know why people get so
But isn't
angry.
this policy a step in the right direction? Isn't it what everybody that's anti-woke has been calling for?
What does that mean again?
More plurality. Well, there's a question. But the idea of getting rid of cancel culture and having students exposed to views they don't share.
And having a debate, yeah, I mean, I think the course is actually probably a good idea. It will, of course, get loads of complaints, but you'd imagine the organisers don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we saw, didn't we, the gender-critical author Helen Joyce get pushback for her talk, the debate that was conducted at Cambridge University.
And there have been other academics hounded from universities, with harassment and just being...
Kathleen Stock.
Kathleen Stock was one, yeah. And I think, universities are mainly a place to find objective truth and, work things out and develop knowledge and enhance knowledge, grow our body of knowledge. And you can't do that without interrogating ideas and without the freedom to speak freely. Because, going through history, a lot of things that have now been proven to be true were incredibly blasphemous to the considered ideas at the time. Like Galileo saying that the Earth goes around the sun instead of the sun going around the Earth. That was hugely blasphemous. He was imprisoned. He was put under house arrest for that. So, and that's the same as criticising some of the current woke ideas that are written into stone as if they're true.
What do you mean the Earth's not flat? What an ignoramus. Tell us when the shuttle lands, Leo. Finally, time for our final story in this section before a short break. And this is the Sunday Telegraph, and we're back to cancelling free speeches at university. Free speech at university. Tell me more.
Yeah, another free speech at university story. So Oxford Dons have accused Oxford University of trying to kill off a critical magazine. And they mean critical. This is another headline that could do with some clarification. It's a critical magazine because it criticises, establishment figures in Oxford rather than it being, absolutely essential to life. But it's been going for 150 years. Lots of esteemed writers have written for it, including J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis and W.H. Auden. Nobody had first names in the old days. They all had initials. But now the Oxford magazine has been forced to cease publication, with Dons accusing the university's management of an attempt to kill it off on account of its critical articles. And it's they're using the excuse of GDPR and data protection, which is a sort of catch-all excuse for we don't want to do it. You see this with companies, or if you want to get in touch with the council to find out which one of your neighbours is accusing you of putting your rubbish in the wrong bin. They'll say, we can't say that because of GDPR. It's like, you can tell me. It's like you don't want to. So they're just they're hiding behind that. I don't think there's any issue with GDPR at all.
May I ask for your middle name, please?
It's Hamilton.
So you would be L.H. Curse if you were a writer. What kind of books would they be?
Hamilton's my last name, really.
Oh, is it? So L.H. Hamilton.
L. Hamilton Kearse.
Oh, L. Hamilton Curse.
I've got a double barrel.
Do you know what that sounds like a Victorian horror writer.
My granddad was a Victorian horror writer. He was a bit late, actually. He lived in the 1940s.
Was he really?
No.
How exciting would that have been?
No.
And then S.N. Allen. Yeah. Sounds very bookish, doesn't it?
Does it?
Yeah.
The problem with having a surname that's a first name, it's an absolute mess.
Can I ask both of you, did you both attend university? You did, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah.
Did you attend university?
Yes.
Leo, would you do it this time round? Because I can honestly say that I'm not sure I would go to uni now.
I'd go to university, but I'd do something that's worth doing. I did film and media studies at the University of Stirling. Now, no offence to the University of Stirling, but, you know, nobody calls it the Harvard of the North. And, you know, we didn't really learn anything. The trouble was we didn't learn anything. If I'd studied law or medicine, then I'd be doing something like that.
Steve, I honestly, unless there was a job at the end of it, I'm not sure I'd bother.
Yeah, I think I've got the total opposite point of view, because I did chemistry and I had some friends who did history, and they had 4 hours of lectures a week. We were in the labs 25 hours for a degree that I don't use, so I'd still do the degree, but I wouldn't care about putting any effort in. I had a great time. I'd drink more, and I'd understand what I was drinking.
I'm told that you ingested a lot of those chemicals. Is that true?
No, you're not allowed to.
Yeah, all those bubbly potions.
Yeah.
He's not been right since, let me tell you. Look at him. He's quite ruddy-faced, isn't he? Sanguine. There you go. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Well, listen, he'll reveal his other side in the final part of the show, because we've got some cracking stories to get through, including Elon Musk on comedy, why aliens don't visit us, and the groundbreaking theory on red nail varnish. See you shortly.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. Tonight, in the company of Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. We've got more stories to get through. We're back with a story from The Star and Elon Musk legalising comedy on Twitter, Steve.
Yes, Elon Musk announces comedy is now legal on Twitter. I mean, legal's the wrong word, and yeah, I mean, it was as well. But yeah, good, fair enough.
Well, he's being satirical, isn't he?
Kind of, yeah, but it's a big chunk of hyperbole, as if somehow all comedy was banned. Look, I hope that things open up with this guy moving in there. I hope comedy is more than just prop work by carrying sinks. He said that he was buying Twitter to help humanity. I think you'd help humanity more if you bought it and just shut it down, or just have one page that just goes, get off your phone for 10 minutes. But I do like the bit where he said that he wasn't buying Twitter to make money. I think maybe he did, because he's got planned. There's a video of him chatting about how it would be good to turn it into a thing that's analogous to China's WeChat. Fair enough. It's a good plan, but don't pretend you're not.
He can hope to make money, but I mean, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, essentially, in spite of its massive global footprint, Twitter has never really been profitable.
Yeah, so the idea would be turn it into an app that does more than just microblogging. And there's some subscription ideas could be brought in early, but if it becomes like WeChat, it will be used as a way of, it's effectively a credit card wallet, it's a payment system, a way to transfer money. He knows about setting up things that are money transferal. You know, if you can tie in a little bit of PayPal-style stuff into it.
I do think, Steve, that we come dangerously close to that point in the show where Steve N. Allen denies the existence of cancel culture. Because isn't the essence of that tweet that really extreme political correctness has killed comedy, and that's what he's saying?
Oh, yeah, especially on Twitter. Sorry to butt in, Steve, but I was going to disagree with you anyway. But, like, the Babylon Bee, amazing satirists, but they committed the cardinal sin of satirising people on the left. They're slightly conservative.
And they were banned by Twitter?
Banned by Twitter. And I got banned, not by Twitter, but by Facebook the other day for posting a Jeffrey Dahmer meme. It said a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer, and it said, if you can't beat him, eat him. And Facebook said that I was promoting cannibalism. It's like there's no room for, any sort of humour. Everything's taken at completely literal face value.
What we know, you like swallowing bears. You don't go near.
Only their penises.
Well, exactly. I'm pleased to hear it.
I mean, sausage.
I think we've lost that layer of double entendre there. Sure, it was sausages last time I checked.
I meant bestiality. But Steve, you're going to say?
No, I totally disagree. No, I'm not disagreeing with that. That, as I said after saying legal's the wrong word and all comedy wasn't banned, I do hope he opens up the space for more discussion. I think that gets covered by that. So I'm not saying no comedy was ever cancelled.
Do you think, Big Steve, do you think that comedy as an art form has been curtailed by this sort of woke wave of political correctness? Would you say comedians are self-censoring more? Would you say there are fewer comedy films because of the current mood?
But then I'd imagine, well, straight away, my thought would be no, because I imagine you don't self-censor. We're on a comedy-based show.
I just had a tour cancelled.
Well, you're not on your own, though. You didn't self-censor.
I didn't self-censor, but because I didn't self-censor, all the venues were like, no, he's problematic. It's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be problematic. I'm a comedian. I'm not going to turn up and be like, everything you've heard is completely correct, and I'm not going to question or mock any of it. You know what I mean?
So you've had a tour cancelled?
Yeah. I was bound and gagged were going to take me on tour, and they said they can't get enough venues, because the venues that they normally just drop shows into are like saying, and there'll be some blue-haired 22-year-old answering the email being like, no, we're not having him. He doesn't chime with our values.
Right. And how many venues are we talking about here?
So they needed, they were going for 25, but they needed at least 15 or 20, and they couldn't get that.
And we know of, I think it was the Hollywood director Paul Feig, who's a famous comedy director, and he said, I just don't bother making comedies anymore because Hollywood just doesn't do comedy anymore.
And you think that's because of the pushback? Because
if you do anything that attempts to be funny, you're going to offend someone, and then your career will be over.
Yeah, but then so that point could be argued by saying, well, taste changed. So maybe he's recognising taste rather than because you've been cancelled by that film.
But tastes don't change. That's the thing. I mean, I can go and do gigs like the Comedy Unleashed tour. We're going out and we're totally smashing it. But then you've got stuff like Borat 2 coming out, Sex Unzipped on Netflix, and all this stuff that's like woke comedy, and it's appalling. And nobody's like, even The Guardian gave Sex Unzipped 0 stars because it was so excruciatingly bad.
That doesn't mean that tastes don't change. Tastes definitely do change, right? Whatever favourite era of comedy you've got, imagine 50 years before that and it wasn't as funny then. That just remains true.
Is it
everyone.
taste changing or censorship kicking in?
How do we separate out the difference? I imagine there could be a bit of censorship, but there's definitely some taste changing in there as well.
Okay, yeah, I
We're
think
just picking our own favourite sides of the argument.
That might be a fair point. Well, let's move on now to The Observer. And don't worry, Leo, he didn't say the whole of Britain is racist.
Well, that's what he's saying. So Trevor Noah, who's a comedian, funnily enough, we're just talking about taste changing and, maybe tastes have changed, but Trevor Noah still isn't very funny or clever. But he said he did not claim that the entire UK is racist after a row over his skit about Rishi Sunak's appointment as the UK Prime Minister. So in the original comments on the US programme, Noah, who's South African, who grew up during apartheid, said, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, they're taking over now, the Indians are going to take over Great Britain and what's next. You never hear anybody saying that. I've never heard anybody saying that. And if anybody should have heard that, it should have been me. You know, I'm on all the, far-right, bullet like Parler and Gab and all the rest of it. Well, I'm not on them, but I'm on Telegram. But and Trevor continues, and I always find myself going, so what? What are you afraid of? I think it's because the quiet part that a lot of people don't realise what they're saying is, we don't want these people who are previously oppressed to get into power because they may do to us what we did to them. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody's thinking. And also, when was Rishi Sunak oppressed? Tell me at what point in his life the billionaire, Winchester-educated, Oxford-educated Prime Minister was oppressed. It's an absolute nonsense to say that.
The first leadership race. That was the only time.
Yeah. I mean,
I was oppressed by democracy.
We have bigots in this country. We have racism. It's an appalling scourge. But the bottom line is that overall, the reception of Rishi Sunak into number 10 has largely been celebrated as a great milestone for the country, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and there's a quote in here as well that says that the UK is not racist. And here's the beautiful thing about another example. Both statements are true. Some people are racist. The UK is not racist. But it doesn't matter, because people won't see eye to eye on this, that people will just look, they'll trim out the rest of the information and look at the bit that backs up the thing they're about to say. So they're both true. There are some racists, and there is not...
But I've watched this clip. And he's pontificating to an audience who are all wearing face masks, by the way, because they're all compliant, like, idiots. But, like,
brainwashed sheep.
And they're all just nodding along. Nobody's really laughing.
Well, they can't. They've got no oxygen. They think he's funny.
But they're all just
lightheaded.
They're nodding along, and his message was clearly... He can obfuscate it, try and wriggle out of it however he likes. His message was clearly, oh, British people are all racist, and, this is what they're all saying in Britain, when nobody's saying it.
Well, I think it was actually a slander on a whole country.
Yeah.
I think it was a libel on the UK. Don't take my word for it. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer and Sunak's colleague, Sajid Javid, another Tory of colour, they're so diverse, these Tories, aren't they?
Yeah.
He said, this is simply wrong, this comedy sketch, a narrative catered to his audience at a cost of being completely detached from reality. Britain is the most successful multicultural democracy on earth, and I'm proud of this historic achievement.
Absolutely. And I think, in Britain, we don't judge people on skin colour. We judge people on, a lot of other things. Class. Culture, their school tie, things like that.
Exactly right. Well, let's power through a few more if we can. The Sunday Telegraph and a new take on recycling in the world of watches, Steve.
Yeah, this one won't take long. A Cheshire horologist, which feels like the kind of thing you do to warm up. It's a little tongue twister before broadcasting, isn't it? A pressure apologist, Cheshire horologist, is making watches out of Spitfire wings. There's your story, really. That's all it is. But if they've not gone with the headline, time flies, I will drive around there and slap them.
They need Steve N. Allen in the writer's room.
It's 12 grand, by the way, for a watch, which makes me think, have you got anything from a Sopwith Camel?
I know, it's true. Anything's worth it just to wear a bit of an aeroplane that saved Britain. A story from The Observer and a hopeful discovery to combat early signs of cancer, Leo.
So experts from Imperial College London have developed an endomicroscope that is less than 1 millimetre in diameter. I assume endo means really small, because this thing's about the width of 25 human hairs, which I had to get 25 hairs off my head. It wasn't easy to find them. But it's still small. It sounds like a lot, but it's still really small. So you can insert it into the body. It provides views of tissue and organs, and also other stuff. If you've, you might have eaten a number plate like that shark in Jaws. But they're going to be able to identify cancerous cells 1/100th of a millimetre in size. I don't know what size that is compared to human hair, but they're going to be able to identify cancer sooner.
Endo means in.
In,
yeah.
microscope.
The micro bit is the small part.
Oh, that makes
instead of endoscopy.
No, but a microscope, you get big microscopes.
No, but micro definitely
Can't
means
fit them
small.
in you.
But endo means in.
Right.
Exo means
Have you
out.
had anything like that slipped into you, Steve?
Well, it did make me think that if they do micro endoscopy, could I request that the next time I have to go and get a colonoscopy? Because it seems churlish to get the big one out.
I don't know. Can I be honest with you? And I'm probably just speaking for myself, but I prefer it a little bit of girth. But each to their own. Shall we have a look at the Sunday Mirror now? And something tells me that this man's life isn't as bad as he thinks it is, Leo.
So a man who won over £100 million on the lottery has admitted his new lavish lifestyle bores him. So Neil Trotter from Coulsdon, he won the Euromillions prize of £107.9 million in 2014. The Camelot Group warned him not to splash, not to do anything with his winnings, but he bought a Grade 2 listed mansion with its own lake and 400 acres of land. And yeah, he's got a Jaguar and a Porsche, but he says he's bored. He's bored. Even though, like, with money, you can buy stuff. You can hire people to come to your house and do appalling things. You can get substances delivered from the dark web. There's no reason to be. You've got Wikipedia. You can read the entirety of human knowledge. You can do whatever you want.
You can pay for your own endoscopy with a really, really big, wide tube.
That's right. That's right. Made out of bearskin.
They don't even have to lube it up. Steve.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I read this story and I'm annoyed by it. It's just a lack of imagination, isn't it?
Yeah.
It says it's boring sitting around the house doing nothing. Oh, if only there was some way you could fund doing things. Oh, I guess not.
Can you give me 10 seconds on TikTok red nail theory, Leo?
Yes, I can. So there's a red nail theory that's taken over TikTok with videos being viewed over 74.9 million times. Didn't quite get to 75 million. And it is you paint your nails red and men fancy you.
Yeah, well,
it looks good.
Never worked for me. These two don't need any nail varnish. They are the real deal. My thanks to the fabulous Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. A brilliant analysis and a few chuckles along the way. We're here every night at 11 for Headliners, and I'm back tomorrow at 9 for Mark Dolan Tonight. Many thanks to Sophia, Andy and Fraser. See you tomorrow.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you.
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio,
and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints, over a drink, we have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story,